Yeah. I want to talk to you about building a cooperative ticketing network that is a free market platform, and by accounting of trade in respect to homeless people, the community who get involved with the co-op can profit and have a categorically better outcome in terms of trade within that cooperative structure. So this is online, but also we need to think about having a form of post office, and we need to also have people who are professionals who we need to integrate onto the platform, cooperative platform, so that they become service providers. So anyway, trying to build a QR code, which is like a receipt or kind of address thing, an intelligent barcode. So what we could do. This is a receipt. A receipt's lots of black and white lines, but this is now a chessboard, and we can interrelate the squares to make sense. So your community is the whole general square, and the one next to it is your personal one. Now, while it's all in the cloud, which is the internet, now the internet is your information, the ticks, yes and no on your phone, it's everybody's information all over. So that phone is on the generally, and your private information is spread everywhere so much. It's unassociable until you access it. So this is you've got community barcode, and now you're interacting with it. So this platform's it's you, so it's a neural network because it's you and others, producers and consumers. And also it's like post office in the cloud with a badge. So you post your letter, and the producer. So the producer is constantly producing his letter, He's only going halfway into the post office. And when you demand an apple from the greengrocer, you post and it meets in the middle and produces a community one, and you can a community barcode. So every time you access an apple, you buy an apple. And you integrate with this barcode in the middle. So your personal barcode mixes, and so it constantly changes. But 95% of the time, year on year, in terms of food, what you're going to do is the same thing. So what you can do is agree to this in small groups of 100, so let's say, or tens. And what we need to do is think about when we're forming groups and spending money, and forming that group and having a cooperative about it, being able to cooperatively decide about finance and having the freedom to individually, can you imagine having the freedom to individually finance, within that group and so on. The best economic method is to, really create quality and universality out of the, essential goods, to be inclusive. And therefore it's actually profitable to help homeless, so we can actually include charity in here and law providers. So if you imagine once this has been built over time with technicians, once you build a website, you provide, if you're providing a council service or something or whatever, helping the homeless, you can have your sort of average community sort of pathway or barcode for things that homeless people do when they're helped. So for a start, you get your emergency and accommodation, and your less your temporary and permanent accommodation, and then food on. Well, at the moment, food's quite the problem, but food as well. And when you talk about food, it's the same year on year. You eat 3 times a day. So let's build up this barcode now. So this is you in the pin, and what you're trying to do is get things from the container or the shop on the other side. So that's up here. So there's lots of things in this container up here, and really what we're looking at in any shop is a decision. I'm looking at an apple now. I'm going to decide about that apple and then choose against all the other things in the shop. So that you can make a decision out of that where it's between you and the shopkeeper, and you can say you're saying no a lot up here. So you and the shopkeeper, and we're saying well, no and yes compared to, you know, meat, vegetables, an apple, and here is a lot of yeses. This is the no and yes the other way around. Well, this is a lot of yeses in this corner. So this is, we can build up the average one here, which is the average shop and the average consumer, and we've already decided that because you've grouped up in hundreds or whatever. Or eventually it got quite large, and it can go quite large quite quickly. And this is your personal one, let's say. And over the time you say, well, I'm actually employed for this amount of time, I'm actually unemployed for this amount of time, and some people are homeless. So let's talk about housing. I mean, you say let's live in a house all the time as a group, and then you should have all these boxes all the time ticked about having a house, whether you're employed or unemployed, and not having so that's the price. What price is your trade? But then on the end of that scale, you can have a category and say, well, no, I'm not being homeless. So here we can have our savings from today's trade going into our homeless, so we're not being homeless, you know. So that can go to help homeless people now and things like that. So we don't need to do any of these laws or anything. This is a free market platform, but it really can allow people to sort of trade currency or, you know, finance. So you can do that within your group. So if you support people and then trade with their building their better quality, agreeable better quality. So when they say yes, it really goes onto a shelf somewhere. Says, yeah, every day I'm getting good or better quality, and that's me receiving it saying yes. It's going into my personal and general interactions with the shop as whatever category person. And if, you know, I'm in the category that receives council employment or whatever, and I go through somebody who integrates as a charity or whatever, I build up the general picture of success, you see. So we've got 2 layers that we want to have ticked all the time. It's food and housing. And what we can do as a group, we can say, well, if we do have a new member or a member that's homeless, so no, we don't decide that. But when that happens, we can say, well, you know, well, if you put £50,000 on a year's worth of supply for a homeless institution of a couple of 20 beds, 30 beds, over the course of a year, then they're gonna, you know, if you give the homeless people, because they're the econs, or they're the, you know, you want to make sure that the people are out, you know, hunting them and saying tag, you know, hopefully, you know, if it's intended to work properly. So it's about ticking the success. Yes, I can pick up this means to buy things. So because it's a platform, because this is the trade that you're doing already, you're just adding an extra tick to say, yeah, well, this is a trade I'm doing already. I'm going to make sure that this money that's going round does as it's promised. So we add to the communal ticks, and the money goes into the community and finances the people who don't then need to help the homeless group. There's symbiosis, and you don't need to really search and make that, because it's a connection thing, and so we're making those anonymous connections, because once we have this maintenance, then we have people who are unemployed that are being looked after increasingly better. Well, then this average curve, we can say quite quickly, it's you know, the average and these yeses and nos and the interactions between, you know, the degrees of separation between your apple and then other goods over here, X, Y, Z. But it's also the route that they take, X, Y, Z, and efficiency if you choose something that you don't want, which is down here, so you want X, Y, Z. So really, this is you, Y, yes, and your X is the previous you, and the Z is the average people. And anyway, you can as a group grow profit, because if we look at sort of like how people earn money, if we just do something like this. So this is income distribution over the top, like that. So now once the group has got everything that they agreed to have every day in terms of food and housing, tick yes or categorically, oh well, I'm homeless, got no food. You have other goods you can add in. So now you've got other goods. Someone might want to trade sunglasses or something. So you have that, and these are they might be limited, or they try and produce sunglasses for everybody. So now you have your category of employed, and then those goods change. You have a different fashion of sunglasses, and so what you want to do is this sort of first decision always can relate to the decision you don't want to be homeless when you're unemployed. So we have these degrees of freedom of yes and no, no and yes, definitely no and definitely yes, and we purchase things. So these are like they go this way and that way. So it doesn't change price. People plug in and sell things normally, and so it doesn't change price. But these are the degrees of freedom. It maps your thing, your barcode, and it maps the general one that changes steadily every day, and so that this increases because you're financing community. Now see, the reason is these extremities of law create some interesting things. So what we have here, if we pay attention to this normal bell curve here, now, and here it's quite complicated, but we've got a box. So what we want to do is say, well, okay, we've got to compare every day. So we can make an empty circle. It doesn't matter. Once we've cleaned up the homeless once we're no more homeless people, to look, the day that then we can compare. But so you've got your sort of average kind of beneficiary or low pay, and your average people over here that are sort of your managers, sort of the people who have that extra profit. And it's within a range. Now, when it's we're out of a range, here in this bell curve, what's still legal within your group. Now we're saying legal, we want to make sure homeless is there's no homeless. So over here we have an empty space, right? So outside of normal, there's an empty space that says, okay, in case it's homeless. So because what we're saying is that, like, you can, when somebody's in the group and says, oh, lots of money, and now there's homeless, what we can say is, when they profit, it's because they've moved that bell curve a lot, so they produced sunglasses. So they made money, and because we've all bought sunglasses, they move back in again. Now, when that process starts to create homelessness, which it can do, because people don't have jobs or whatever, and this is really terrible. The everyday food and housing situation. What we can do is fill that in, and as soon as we fill that in, it's outside of the average. Productivity can pull us all on. What we can say is, because it's outside of our kind of decision, it creates momentary illegal, like someone's created homelessness. Now, because we can pull that person back in quite efficiently, we create an empty seat again, which that indirect association, but therefore a direct association with the general barcode, because we've solved a homeless issue, we can repair that side. So then we can bring into sort of this legality, which is the same as saying financing the production of the average, the normal, to push it up along, so everybody gets an extra apple. Everybody gets an apple, which was a limited supply before. So anyway, we build up this, we have all this, and what we really do is really a lot of pins in this guy. So like I said, that's you and your barcode, and this is everybody else. It's the interrelation of that, which you can research in retrospect to find out, how you can make, there's more profits to be had in your business, or there are homeless, and really that homeless situation really can make if your group collects all the homeless, you have a great pot of money. So you want to sort of ring fence the group that can save all the homeless, and everybody after that really just integrates their business with the platform as a producer or customer as normal. And people can integrate as bankers and financiers and employers and such like that. And what the post office in the cloud does with the badge is it can be a tag on your trade. So you say, I don't want homelessness, and you know that joining the co-op that can give you a few pennies. Once you spend a few pounds, you can get a few pennies just for saying I don't want homelessness, and that tag attracts people. And when businesses do that, when you buy that good, it allows the homelessness situation to be a functional thing. And the quality of things that become categorically things that have been purchased, whether you're employed or beneficiary on benefits or and savings or whatever, your quality of life within that group will get better. And the more people, the better that baseline, and the disassociation with money and between the universal goods, the essential goods that you've categorised, you've bought in the past as employed, or beneficiary or whatever. These create the averages in free market, because somebody wants to help the homeless by giving them a chip and pin card, which then relates to the average QR code in the community and the adding communities. So most the one that goes for the one that soaks up the most homeless people can create the best quality for those people, and you can do that just by clicking your button and joining a co-op. So it can tag people of the same with the same sense of justice and free market justice, to say that I don't want homelessness, and actually therefore it will benefit somebody who owns a hotel, because private people, health insurance, you sort of people don't benefit from benefits, and so people who don't associate themselves with being beneficiary when they're unemployed, they can have a better time with things and try and maintain that level of stability that they have had, while saving up. So so once you build this network and this cooperative ticketing network, you can, as a group, pool your money and allow people to finance themselves, because once you put the goods on the list, it can be bought and it's decided upon, basically, and it's a price competitive application. It doesn't do anything. It just applies a number to your trade and says, it confirms the yes. But that number creates an anonymous receipt, QR code for the relevant area for that person. Because the probability is, after you're young and before you're retired, you're going to be unemployed for around something like 6% of the time. It has been for a long time. And that's a product of efficiency. Cooperatively, we can in our trade today, just make sure there are no homeless people today, so that you personally don't suffer homelessness if and it could happen to anybody. So yes, it is a profitable thing because you are agreeing temporarily to hold that incentive to then profit from food and housing in your town, and really eating out can be quite efficient and affordable. The future market will happen whereby big sums of money won't be concentrated in terms of petrochemicals and that kind of packaging and thing, and there is a demand for the high streets, going from your home walking distance, because it's your choice. You choose not to have a car in some situations. Perhaps some parts we might actually be forced to have electric buses and trams and taxis and things like that. So profit is there for you to be made. So why would you be homeless? And once you've made a machine, it tends to do things for you, make things for you. So, yes, I think that's it. Okay, thank you.